Hi, Renee with you here on Be a Fun Mum, and today what you can see in front of you is my hiking first aid kit that we take out in the bush when we go hiking as a family. So this is the kit that goes on all our overnight hikes. So I'm just going to run you through what we currently have. There are a couple items missing, so I'll just mention what those are and let's go from there. Okay, so first of all, I have a waterproof bag. So this is was something that I got bottles in. It has a nice seal on it. It's really important that you keep your first aid kit in a waterproof container. I know other hikers who use those plastic cylinder containers that your bulk multivitamins come in, like vitamin C, and they pack their first aid kit inside one of those. You do need it to be in a waterproof container because you don't want your tablets and things getting wet. Okay, outside of that, the next most important thing in my view is a snake bite kit. We can't ignore the fact that we live here in Australia and snakes are a real and present danger. I am a little bit paranoid about them, and that's okay. But the thing is to be prepared and to know what you're doing. So number one, I would highly recommend, if you're looking to go out in the bush with your family and do overnight hikes, that you take the initiative and go do a first aid course. I recently just refreshed mine and it was amazing and interesting to learn all the changes from the last time I had done first aid, but also to give me more confidence that when I'm out there on the trail, that I know what to do. So you can actually do first aid courses that are specific to bush. So that takes into consideration the fact that you don't have access to resuscitation gear and all that sort of thing. You're basically using what you've got on you. So that's also a good one to do if you're specifically looking on what you need to action as a parent if something goes wrong on the trail. Okay, so first let's look at this snake bite kit. Compression bandages is what you need to treat snake bite. So basically, if someone says, I've been bitten by a snake, number one, you get them to stop immediately. They need to stop. They need to stop moving, because what you want to do is slow that blood flow right down to slow the poison moving towards the vital organs of the body. So compression bandage is how you treat. Basically, you compression bandage up and down whichever limb has been bitten. There are compression bandages you can buy now that are specific to snake bites, and they've got like a little square on them, and they're great because what happens is when you pull, it will change from like a triangle to a square to say, yes, you've got the right amount of pressure and compression there, if you're not sure if you're going to put it on too tight or too loose. Too tight probably isn't an issue with snake bite. People's toes might go a little bit blue, but at least you're slowing that blood flow. Too loose is actually an issue. You need to make sure it's nice and firm. So I'm actually going to look at getting those snake bite compressions eventually. They're not cheap, but I think they're a worthwhile investment. But for the moment, we've got this old compression bandage I've had for a number of years, and this one still in the bag. The other thing you need for snake bite is a marker. So you can see here I've already tested to make sure it's still okay. You need to mark on the outside of the bandage where the snake bite occurred, and if you're able to identify what the snake was, because that's going to help emergency services to treat appropriately. They will actually tend to cut around the bandage, so they won't take the compression off, because then you're increasing that blood flow again. So that's why it's really important to mark where the snake bite was on the outside of the bandage. Make sure every time you go out for a hike that you just test to make sure that pen still works. And definitely go for a marker over just a normal pen, because I don't think a normal pen is going to show up on a bandage. Okay, so next bandage, triangular bandage. So this one's still in its little packet. It's a nice light one. I know some ultralight hikers actually will take like a triangular bandana, and that's what they use in an emergency for a triangular bandage. So they actually don't carry a triangular bandage, they just use what they're carrying on you. I think that's important to remember when you're hiking, is that you rip clothes, you do whatever it takes to treat whatever the issue is in front of you. So just think about that in terms of, are you wearing a long sleeve cotton shirt? You can cut that up and use that as a bandage or as a sling, or create that into some kind of item to treat the patient in front of you. Okay, so next is tampons and pads. Now, I actually don't get my period when I'm out on the trail anymore because I have gotten an implant, so that's good in many ways. However, pads and tampons are fantastic in your first aid kit. One, because I don't know when my daughter's going to get her period, but another reason is that they're great if you have someone that's had a puncture wound. You know, stick the tampon in there, it'll expand. It's, you know, covered in plastic. You know, we put this inside of our body, so it's no issue with it being able to be used as a puncture to absorb that blood. The same with the pads. You know, you lay them on top if you've had an abrasion, you know, lay them on top, wrap the bandage around. You know, they're sterile, they'll absorb blood, they do everything you need them to do. Best of all, they're really, really light and they're inexpensive compared to, you know, some of the more commercial first aid or hospital gear. My mum used to carry this as treatment all the time. I remember her using pads to actually wrap a guy's feet who had ended up with blisters all over his feet because he went hiking with new shoes, which is a big no-no. Always make sure that you've broken in your shoes first before you take them hiking. I remember her wrapping pads around his feet and then bandaging his feet, and then him having to walk with his shoes, with thongs on actually, thongs for the rest of the hike till we got back to a road where we were able to hitch a ride back to where our cars were. So pads, amazing. Keep them in your first aid kit, nice and light. Okay, what else have we got? Emergency blankets. Really a good idea to have an emergency blanket. So emergency blankets are great if you have had someone that's had a snake bite and they're sort of going into shock or hypothermia. Wrap them in an emergency blanket. The same as if all your sleeping gear has got wet and it's winter, emergency blanket. If you've ended up with someone with a broken limb, emergency blanket can help to just keep them calm and have something wrapped around them. They're relatively inexpensive. You can buy them online or you can buy them at most pharmacies. You know, just get one, put it in your kit. It's nice and light, it's not too bad. You can use it for a whole range of things, so not a bad thing to have in your kit. This here is actually salt. So you can use those little salt satchels you get from the cafe or the restaurant. I've just done mine where you actually seal the ends of a straw, which is also a great way of taking herbs and spices with you when you're hiking. Do them like this. You fill them inside and seal top and bottom. Salt is great for treating leeches. Leeches aren't dangerous, they're just gross. And they can be uncomfortable if they get inside of your socks, which I actually have had happen when I was a teen. We went hiking and it rained quite a lot, and there was a lot of leeches, and we actually had them going through our wool socks. And they were rubbing between our shoes and our socks. It was pretty gross. And I remember us using quite a lot of salt. Rid also helps. In regards to Rid, this is the best product I've found so far for insect repellent. So Bushman's, this is unfortunately the lightest it comes in. It doesn't come any smaller. 75 grams may not seem like a lot, but when you're adding all the grams together in your pack, it actually is really surprising how quickly it equals kilos. However, we've taken this, we've been in a situation where there was a lot of mosquitoes and this worked. I had a long sleeve shirt on and I was still getting bitten through my long sleeve shirt. My kids were wearing normal t-shirts, had this, and they were having no issues at all. So I actually ended up having to put this product on. So it's not something that I would put on my kids all the time, but when we're hiking, definitely worth putting on them. Okay, antidiarrhea. We don't like to think about this happening on the trail, but it does. Drink a little bit of dodgy water and hurrah! So I can deal with the idea of vomiting. It's not pleasant, but you know, you can keep going. Diarrhea, however, is just a bit gross. So I've got these tablets in the kit, basically just to help resolve that issue, so you at least can try and get back to a road and hitch a ride or do whatever you need to do. Because you've got to remember too, when you're hiking, is you only have a certain amount of clothing that you've packed, so that also is an issue. So anti-diarrhea, have them in your kit. Okay, Steristrips. So I've just got some Steristrips in there in case someone does get a large cut that requires stitching. You know, you Steristrip it across, whack your pad on top, wrap it in a compression bandage, get them out and get them to a doctor or a hospital to have further treatment. So Steristrips are nice and light. You can cut them. You don't need to use the whole thing if it's a smaller cut. They're just something that I've had in a kit forever. My mum has used them before on hikes where we've had someone that had a cut, so I know that they're good to have in the kit. Okay, Panadol. I've got kids Panadol and I've got adult Panadol just to help in case of, you know, headaches, pain, any of that kind of stuff. Okay, then we have strapping tape. So I do suffer from a little bit of plantar fasciitis, so I always tend to have strapping tape. I've taken it off the main roll because the main rolls are usually a heavy cardboard, so that adds weight to your kit, and I've just rolled it onto a straw to make it nice and light and lovely. So strapping tape, I would say, is a must. You can use it as a band-aid. So you can see I've got no band-aids or anything in here because to me, strapping tape, compression bandages, that's all you need. So put that in your kit, and you can see I've also wrapped it around the pen as a backup too. Okay, antiseptics. Okay, so I have this in a kit for the kids mostly. The thing I like about this product is it does a number of things. It's not just one item, so it looks after minor cuts, insect bites. My daughter does get itchy if she gets some like midgie bites and things like that. Stings, itches, minor burns, blah, blah, blah. So that's great for the kids, keeps them happy, keeps me happy. It's heavier than I would like to have in there, but you know, they don't mind putting it on. It doesn't sting them when they put it on. So I think that's a big thing with kids. They don't like anything that stings. Condy's crystals is what I'd initially put in for to treat wounds. The cool thing about Condy's crystals is it also is a water purification product. So that's why we've got it in the kit. This is kind of our backup if our other water purification device fails. We've got this to at least be able to treat water. Water is one of the major things you've got to be thinking about when you're out on the trail. You know, you can't carry too much because, as I've mentioned in previous videos, every litre of water is a kilogram of weight. So you need to be refilling your bottles. Sometimes if you're lucky, if you've got a walking campgrounds, I'll have a water tank there. You still need to use water purification techniques. So whether you're boiling the water and letting it sit overnight, or whether you're using, like we've got a purification device that drips, or whether you're using something like Condy's crystals or water purification tablets. I just like having this as a backup just in case. So like all the products I've got here, most of these things are multi-use, so that's why I like Condy's crystals. I have no idea where my husband got these from. It's a mystery, but if you can get some, get some. Okay, I also have in here a 30 plus lipstick, not lipstick, sorry, like a lip glossy thing. One, just to make sure that you're treating your lips right. You know, you can get chafing and things if you're in open mountains and things from the wind hitting your lips. Make sure that you've got something in there to treat lips. If you get susceptible to cold sores and things, you might want to look at putting some of that product in the kit too. A good pair of tweezers is a must. So these were, I don't know, like around $15, I think actually. So they're a fine tip. So one, you need a fine tip to be able to pull little splinters out, but also ticks. So the method of treating ticks nowadays is to use like a cold freeze. However, cold freeze units are quite bulky and just extra weight. We actually found just using really good tweezers, getting underneath and kind of pulling, twisting is the best way to go. So look at fine tip, and I would recommend watching a couple of YouTube videos on how to remove ticks is beneficial. I've got a lighter in here. So most of the places we go hiking, you actually can't have open fires, which isn't a bad thing. The last thing you want when you're hiking is to be stuck in a bushfire. But with our gas stove, it is a self-ignite, but those devices can sometimes fail. So the lighter is a backup. It is also a backup in regards to if the gas unit completely fails and we're out in the middle of nowhere and we have to eat or we're freezing cold, you know, light a fire. It's going to keep you warm, and if it's going to feed you, then do it. So that's why the lighter's in there. Around the lighter, I've wrapped gaffer tape. So gaffer tape is just one of those things you need to have in your kit. This stuff is amazing. Not only is it really strong, but it can repair pack tears. I've seen it on Pinterest pics where they've actually used gaffer tape as like a Band-Aid. Probably not ideal, but you know, if it stops skin from rubbing on your shoes and it's going to stop blisters, then when you're out on a trail, you're really going to do anything, aren't you? Because feet are such an important asset to you when you're out on the trail. So gaffer tape, make sure you've got some. The reason I've wrapped it around the lighter is the same as what I've done with the strapping tape, is that the cardboard cylinders these things are wrapped on are really heavy. So I've eliminated that weight by wrapping it around something that I've already carrying in the kit, and it comes off really easily. So that's our first aid kit. Ask any questions. The things that I'm missing out of here at the moment is actually hiker's wool. So hiker's wool is actually just sheep's wool, and that stuff is great if you're getting blisters between your toes, although I wear in gingy socks, because the toe socks, because I find that stops a lot of blistering between my toes. But hiker's wool is great for just packing around where your feet may be rubbing on your shoes or you're getting blistering, any of that sort of stuff. You just pack it in there. My PT trainer, she's a trail runner, and she always carries it on her for big trail runs, because she finds that it's the best, and I've used it too when we're out on hikes, and it makes a massive difference. It's a really old school treatment, and it's nice and light being sheep's wool, and you don't need to take that much with you. We actually have sheep's wool on our backpack straps, so I've actually just been pulling the sheep's wool off there. But you can actually buy it as a little bag online. The other thing that's not here is survival cord. So definitely make sure you have some it's called paracord. Have some paracord with you, usually the length of about 2 meters. It's nice and light. Paracord can be used to do things like repair shoelaces, you know, tie things down. If your pack breaks, you know, helping stitch it to tie it together. We've used paracord to make the tarp more taut, all that kind of stuff. So make sure you have some paracord with you as well. So that's me today. Ask any questions in the comments, or if you've got your own first aid kit, put what you've got in the comments below, or share a pic. And yeah, we'd love to see what you're taking with you out on the trail. Till next time.